year's District Professional Development Conference, or DPDC as we like to call it here in CKI. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. Hi, everyone. So I'm excited to be the first presenter for DPDC this year. Thank you so much to Austin, as well as his committee, for allowing me kind of a platform to talk about conflict resolution. My name is Jennifer Quay. I am a certified health education specialist. So I have gone through many, many different positions in my life. So I have a little bit of background in terms of conflict resolution styles, kind of my growth of conflict resolution, both being a former Circle K member, so I was club president. I was one of the youngest presidents at Orange Coast College. Coming out of high school, I had very little experience in running a board. I had that experience in my senior year of high school, but after that, going into college, it was totally different. In high school, I was probably dealing with people who were around my age or the same age as me. However, going into college, you see many types of different people, all different backgrounds, all different ages. So being in that position really kind of forced me to grow up very, very quickly. You can see that as positive or negative. It was kind of both. After that, I became district awards chair, moved on to being an international trustee. I used to be subregion B trustee, which was the southwestern part of the United States, including California, Nevada, Hawaii, Southwest District, and Rocky Mountain District. Of course, we don't have that position anymore for subregion, but we do have district governor. So I was district governor for CNH. My alma maters are also Orange Coast College and CSU Fullerton, to shout out to some students who are here from those schools. I am also currently for Circle K an advisor at Orange Coast College, and also the District Kiwanis Family and Foundations Committee advisor. Professionally, because this is a professional development conference, I currently work at the County of Orange in healthcare agency in the mental health and recovery services on the crisis assessment team as an office specialist. That is so many words that I just threw at once to you. But basically, I work on our healthcare administration team for the County of Orange in government. So I deal with a lot of different clinicians, a lot of different types of management styles, and a lot of different types of people, and also to our clients as well. So that's a little bit about me. But I wanted to talk about some things that we're going to be going over today on our agenda. First of all, again, thank you so much to all of you for being here today. You really are showing an initiative in one, as Circle K volunteers, as Kiwanians. I see a few Kiwanians in here too, developing your skills, whether that's going to be helping you in your schoolwork, helping you currently in Circle K and your volunteering, or helping you in your current careers or professional careers in the future. And thank you to Austin and his committee for also inviting me to this. So a few things that we'll be going over today on our agenda. First is going to be talking about perceiving conflict. Then we'll go into intra, which are things that pertain to you as a person, just you as the main focus. Interpersonal, which is you and other people and those type of situations that you can identify because you're on the outside and you're seeing that happen to other people, whether that's happening to you yourself within, whether that's you with other people, just different type of situations for that. Recognizing it and how to manage it and how to follow through is very important. And also, when situations get extremely serious, maybe from a legal standpoint, we're going to be talking about some of those resources as well. You might say, hey, you know, being a Circle K or being a college student, I kind of understand about things about self-care, about mental health, or maybe we don't. There's always lifelong learning that needs to happen, but you also need to understand the resources that are available for you legally, and also protected by your state department, the federal opportunities, and any private opportunities that you want to seek in those situations. So being a certified health education specialist, every time we start with a workshop or educating our clients, there are always different goals that we want to keep in mind. So here are some of the goals that I would like you to think about, things that I want to cover, but also things that I want you to learn or take away from this workshop. So one, to perceive conflict in new and positive and productive ways. I know that's not how we usually see conflict. Usually conflict is something that we try to avoid with like a 30-foot pole if we could. But I do want to kind of maybe change your mind, maybe not, but maybe see it in a new light. Next is to prepare and respond to conflict in more meaningful ways, not just the usual, this is freaking me out, I don't want to deal with this, I'm going to shut down. That's not a very productive or meaningful way of how to mitigate those feelings, or saying, I'm only going to have to work with this person for another 10 days on this project, so I'm just going to let it fly and not have to address it or not have to deal with it. Obviously, that's not a meaningful way to kind of deal with those conflicting feelings. It's uncomfortable, but you have to kind of face it in some way. And to also recognize completely unacceptable signs. Conflict resolution, some parts it's an opportunity for people to grow and develop their skills. Other parts, you should not sit quiet and you should not just let things fly by. But we'll get into that for the when situations get serious portion. So the first part that we're going to talk about is going to be perceiving conflict. This part might be controversial for some people, or it might be very uncomfortable for some people. But these are the things that are kind of realistic. They happen in reality, they're grounded in reality, and I kind of want you to kind of prepare yourself. Again, this is a workshop, so maybe we're practicing or addressing these concerns, but in the real world outside of this workshop, a lot of things can happen. Conflict is inevitable. You cannot escape it, no matter if you are somebody who is ready for conflict or resolving conflicts or great at peacemaking and all of that, or you're somebody who kind of describes themselves as like anti-conflict, doesn't want to deal with the drama, doesn't want to be a part of that, like the quote unquote, I hate drama people. Obviously, nobody wants to be like, oh, okay, correction. Most people don't go in and they're like, I choose violence today, or I'm going to choose drama today, or I'm going to choose conflict and argument and discord today. Other people might be like, I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to sit, do my work, get out of here and not have to talk to people, or completely shut down, get super, super burnt out, and then start having a lot of mental health issues after that. So whether it's positive or negative, we'll see those in different lights today, but it is a natural thing. So I want you to kind of get that in your head, accept it, and then move on and figure out how to be aces in managing that. Conflict can be an opportunity for healthy growth, especially in CKI. I think that sometimes when we are in CKI, or when I was in CKI, and I'm not sure if this is true for our other advisors or former CKI or former, alumni who are here, there was never like this is a manual for presidents, for treasurers, for Circle K members on how to deal with conflict and the right ways to deal with conflict or the wrong ways to deal with conflict. It's strange because I felt that conflict resolution in CKI as a volunteer organization is much easier than dealing with that in the professional world. In Circle K, you make a lot of friends. A lot of those friends become your family members. And sometimes it becomes a little bit easier to talk to your friends about, hey, this doesn't sit right with me, or hey, is it okay if you change this? Or hey, please reflect upon me and my actions. You're asking your friends for advice, you're asking your advisors for advice to help reflect on you and growing as a person. But when you're in the professional world, sometimes you don't always make friends with everybody. And sometimes not everybody wants to be friends with you. Here, we're volunteering, we're giving back to the community. There's a different mindset. Sometimes in the professional world, people don't want to volunteer. People don't have that quality of wanting to work with other people, wanting to resolve conflicts. You in Circle K, you built tons and tons of different skills that people outside in the professional realm do not have. I can attest. I spent probably 30 minutes trying to show somebody the other day how to open a PDF document from their emails. And if you think you're like, I'm like in college and in Circle K, and I'm not sure if any of these skills would be applicable to the future for my professional career, it absolutely does. I think many of you will know how to highlight a cell in Excel or in Google spreadsheets and such. But the same can be said for managing conflict resolution, teaching others certain things, hosting workshops, training people, how to even set up an agenda. Those are the skills that you learn in CKI. People outside in the real world maybe have never touched those things. So what does that have to do with conflict resolution? Well, you're here in CKI, so maybe you have a little bit more freedom in being able to have time to reflect. In the professional world, if you are having an issue with somebody, you're going to be seeing that person probably 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Versus in Circle K, if you're going to be like, hey, I have this issue with somebody, but let me take some time to reflect on it myself. And maybe I don't have to see them until the next board meeting. Maybe I don't have to see them in person for 3 or so months, but that's how it could be different. So we do want to prepare you for these things ahead in Circle K, because you do have a lot more time to do that than if you were to be stuck with somebody and you say, instead of going, okay, today I'm just going to focus on my schoolwork. Tomorrow I'll deal with those Circle K issues. In the professional world, it's like, I came home from that 9-hour shift dealing with that conflict. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. And the next day after that, I'm still going to have to see these same people. So this is an opportunity for you to grow. You will hopefully get to recognize problems very quickly. So if you are experienced maybe unhappiness in a team or in a board when you're in Circle K, you can recognize those warning signs, and then later in your professional career, oh, yes, I did experience that. And, these were the great things that we did. So let me try to adopt that to my situation in the workplace. Or, I remember somebody said this comment when I was a board member and it did not fly. So I'm going to tell my coworkers in a nice way to maybe not say those things and not escalate it. You also have solutions in your back pocket. So for example, you could be like, yes, when I was in Circle K, I forgot to follow through with my plan when we had a conflict. So let's say maybe somebody said something, I'll be the bad person. I said something that really hurt somebody's feelings, for example, when I was in Circle K or when I was a freshman. But later on, I got a little bit wiser. That's the growth that we want when we're aging, right? To be a little bit wiser. So I'm going to remember, I made that mistake when I was a freshman. Now that I'm working in a professional workplace, I'm going to remember not to do that. But here's the solution that I can offer because I went through that awful phase. Also, you can have improved listening skills and discussion skills. For my students, they all know this story. I was extremely non-confrontational when I was a child, and also when I was a freshman in Circle K. Our current advisor, Jeff Dimsdale, tough love, lots of tough love from him. He's such a great, amazing person, but I refused to talk to him because I was so scared of him, right? Now, one, you can't get me to stop talking. 2, Jeff and I are like best friends, which is why we're co-advisors. And 3, I feel so much more comfortable and confident in my voice to speak my concerns. And because I said, look, I can deal with a team of 8 people because I've dealt with a team of 300, 400 people in Circle K International. So you get a little bit more confidence that way. But something that I do want to keep in mind is that I also work in the public sector in California. So your environment and your resources are going to be different than the resources that I have access to. So just keeping that in mind and some kind of like disclaimers before we really start. So, all right. So I want to take this time to kind of talk about your perceptions of conflict. So the question that I want to ask you is, how do you currently perceive conflicts, whether that's going to be internal conflict with yourself or conflicts with other people? So if you want, just go ahead and feel free to type that in the chat and let us know. I know that some people might be a little bit scared to unmute and talk. So please feel free to put that in the chat. Like, how do you currently feel about conflict? If you just could describe it in like 3 words or less, how conflict makes you feel at the moment. Conflicts with other people, okay, try to avoid, gotcha. A problem to solve, okay. Opportunities for growth, that's awesome. Problematic and time consuming, it is very time consuming. Unavoidable and working with a lot of different perspectives, exactly, great. Great, awesome. And please feel free to continue to share your thoughts about conflict. And I welcome that in the chat, and we'll be able to open up more discussion. But I think it's very important to not just say things at you, but to get your opinion as well, to make sure that this workshop is applicable to you and useful to you. So thank you everybody so far for providing your input. So we talked a little bit about how some people might perceive that, right? And of course, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. Sometimes I like to think as conflict resolution, not so much as resolution, but conflict management. As we said, conflict is natural, but it's also unavoidable. You are going to meet it in some type of way, shape, or form. People have different also definitions for conflict. So people might say, oh, conflict is me getting into arguments with other people. But you don't know that sometimes like conflict is just getting out of bed and trying to figure out, do I get out of bed? When do I get out of bed? And that's like some type of internal strife, right? So you might not perceive that as conflict, but that is actually conflict. So if you ever feel like, I'm not really great at like conflict resolution or managing those things, honestly, that's conflict resolution right there. My thing is I need to get out of bed. I need to take care of this. I need to do that. But my conflict is like, I am so tired, and being a college student, I maybe procrastinated. Just kidding. We don't procrastinate here. We do things last minute so that we can remember and have fresh memory of them, right? That's procrastination, but seeing it in a new light. So that's a conflict I have. I am so tired, but I need to get out of bed because 1, I need to pay my bills. 2, I need to do something productive, even that's just playing video games or something, or even eating. Guys, please take care of your basic needs. But that's conflict right there. So you go through conflict every single day, right from the moment that you wake up. So don't think of it as conflict only happens, that I only define that as when I am dealing with other people or having that situation. You deal with so much conflict already, and you are great at resolving that. So take that confidence that you have, and now that's like 101. So when you're dealing with other people, that's a little bit of 102, right? But you have that confidence, just apply it to that as well. So some issues, right? Conflict might stem from these areas. And there were a lot of people who did say, it is time consuming. It is daunting. I don't want to deal with people and their personalities and such. But here are maybe some areas or reasons as to why conflict arises. This is called the Johari window, and being a certified health education specialist, I have to attend lots of different trainings and continuing education every single probably week or every other week of my life. So I've been able to take these from people with PhDs, doctors, just professionals, and being able to share that with you. So this is from a conflict resolution workshop that I also went to. And these are the areas that they talked about on where conflict can come from. So one is going to be the open free area. Everybody knows your thoughts. Everybody knows what you have to do today. Everybody knows your roles in the office, or your job description in your position, or all of your responsibilities. They know that. The blind area is where it's unknown to you, but it might be known to others. So for example, I might talk about mental health, for example, and this is something that just recently happened with one of my staff members yesterday. I might be in an environment where I love talking about mental health. I love sharing with other people about mental health. I work with clinicians every day who educate me about mental health. So I might feel that I want to freely talk about mental health and not make it a stigma. But I might not know, for example, that other people, that may be very, very triggering for other people, right? So if I have any of those triggers and I don't kind of tell people about that, and I feel offended in some way, or I get triggered in some way, that's a lot of where the conflict might reside. So make sure that you do address some of those blind areas, because if you're like, whoa, I did not know that about you, but at the same time, maybe I do things and I don't realize that that really affects other people or hurtful to other people. So you want to kind of catch yourself up on those blind areas, and also to other people about those blind areas as well. And then on the other side, hidden area, I know things about myself that are unknown to others. Other people might say, hey, you are super young in this workplace. I am, I think, the youngest person on my team. The other people on my team are probably in their 40s or their 50s. They have grandchildren, they're about to retire. I know that I have so many skills from Circle K and being able to do different things. They see me as young and they don't know that. So they think that I am extremely unskilled and I don't have any experience whatsoever. So there might be conflict there. They might see me as, who is this person who doesn't respect my values because I'm older than they are, or they're trying to kind of take my job, or they're trying to boss me around, but they're so much younger than me. They could be my granddaughter and I wouldn't let my granddaughter tell me what to do. That might be a source of that conflict as well. Your capabilities, but other people might just judge you in a different way. And then unknown areas, things that are unknown to you, whether that's qualities that are unknown to you for now, maybe you'll learn them later, or information that wasn't passed on to you, and other people on your team also didn't know that information. So when people feel uncomfortable because they feel that they don't have control of the situation or the information, especially if you are a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist over here, I totally get it. You want to know everything ahead of time and you want to know as much as possible, but that's not realistic. And sometimes we don't accept that that's not realistic. So that's so many ways of where conflict could arise. And I think that the earlier you recognize these and accept these, or at least ponder it, the better you could be at possibly facing conflict, all the different reasons, all the places that it could come from. So now that you see this, hopefully you can be like, oh, okay, gonna put that in my back pocket so that I know at least to prepare myself in the future for this situation. And here are a few reminders. There are 7 steps to kind of managing all of these things. So first, make sure that you want to end before you begin. Let's say that you have some type of conflict that you had with either yourself or with somebody else, right? You want to make sure that there was a resolution to that, that there was a way that you handled it, or there was a solution. However, not everything has a solution. Again, I said conflict management. It's how you manage it. Sometimes, for example, there's somebody that you have tried time and time again to resolve conflict, and it just did not happen. Understand that that's not your responsibility to make everybody like you. That's not your responsibility to make friends with everybody. It's not your responsibility of how other people react to something. So you are responsible for yourself and for your actions. So just please remember that. Just because somebody reacts poorly doesn't mean that, it could have been something you said, so take accountability of that. But at the same time, their reaction is not solely a reflection of who you are. So just keep that in mind. But if you do have any problems with people or resolved any conflicts that, was kind of still like you think was resolved, but it's still hanging up in the air. So you just want to make sure that you end those issues and squash that issue or that drama or that disagreement before you begin on something else. So I think this is the situations where you're like, oh my God, why are they bringing it up again? That happened 20 years ago. They're still going to hang it over my head. You don't want to be that person that's the starting point of the conflict. Try to get yourself out of that situation. So end before you begin. And sometimes during between the end and the beginning is gap time. So I'll tell you about the situation that I had when I first started my job. I am very vocal on my team, but that's because of Circle K and me, dealing with so many issues that Circle K has graced me with. I've, and my other teammate, they are a very shy person. They don't like to interact with people when it comes to conflict. They have a difficult time in being able to address their feelings to other people in a way that is kind of in a healthy way. They kind of bottled everything up. And then once it became like too late, they kind of blew up, which was not healthy for themselves or in the work environment for other people as well. So we had a little bit of miscommunication in our email. And there's also a way to say things in emails, but at the same time, there's also more productive ways of handling something in person. And if not in person, at least reaching out, talking to them, having a private discussion, then there might be during emails. And maybe a little bit more casual instead of saying, hey, insert person's name, I found that this was a difficult topic to talk about, or something was said that I might not have agreed with, or let's talk just more about the situation, versus, dear Sandra, thank you for your input. I found that this could have been conveyed in a different way. I would invite you to have a separate meeting with me. Sincerely, Jennifer Quay, Office Specialist, Healthcare Agency. So that was kind of the miscommunication basically that we had. So in the email, it was presented in a way that I felt was disrespectful to my skills and also to me as a person. So it bothered me so much because I said, you know what, I'm going to give it 24 hours to see if I feel the same way about it. Maybe I'm just overreacting to something. But usually if it still bothers me within 48 hours, I make sure to address that because I want that issue to end before another conflict pops up, but I never resolve the former conflict that I had. And then I'm going to, subconsciously start blaming them for things, pitting things against them, and just doing things that are not going to be very healthy, very kind, very nice, right? So I said, okay, look, this is a problem that I have. Let's talk about it. We talked about it. We realized that it was misunderstanding. We still really appreciated each other, had a lot of respect for each other, still wanted to be like, nice in the team, to still be friends, to be all that in the team. So after that, we both used that gap time after it, kind of ended, to come up with creative ways or to have a transition period where I said, okay, now they understand that in the future, this is probably not the best route to solve that issue. And for me, one, I was glad that I did speak up, but I need to be more conscious about, they don't say this just because they don't like me. It's because they have a difficult time learning how to address those issues. So that was a time for one, me to reflect upon myself, to keep in mind that other people have other ways of doing things, and I need to, one, prepare for that, but remember that. And you know what, I'll be like, okay, how can I resolve this in the future? So I take that gap time from when one conflict ends to another conflict beginning to reflect upon myself, and understand that that transition period is a period of growth. So don't harbor so much ill feelings. Don't harbor so many ill feelings for yourself, and also for other people. You are learning, you're continuing to grow. Sometimes people don't do conflict resolution until later in their life when it's probably too late. And they have a lot of, problems in other facets of their life, whether that's family, whether that's work, whether it's within themselves. Give yourself grace during this developmental period. And also, transition time is a time for you to learn, to research, to maybe talk to other people and say, hey, when you were, working with college students, and did you have a similar situation to this? How did you resolve it? And that's like my research time. But understanding people transition also at different speeds, and they may have different goals. In the workplace, I do have to remember that sometimes people don't want to make friends. People don't want to work on a team. They just want to get their job done. And true story, one of my teammates said that they would prefer not to speak to any of us on the team, and they would only want any discussions to be in front of a supervisor, or any duties to be assigned by our supervisor and not within us as a team, even though our team knows the job description more than our supervisors do. So they have a totally different goal. They just wanted to get to the workplace, do their best, get their raise, and then move on, and they didn't want to be in this department anyway. But then on the other hand, I have teammates who just have never dealt with so many life situations before, so they don't know how to handle things. So in a way, I am there to maybe help guide them or learn so much from them. But people have different goals. Got to accept that. People run at different speeds, and you got to accept that. But sometimes accepting it doesn't mean that I'm not going to address it. That's different. Accepting it is, yes, this does happen, but addressing it is, what do I do from this point on? Two different things. Also, many people and many organizations run at a transition deficit. They don't have the time. Maybe it's their administration, maybe it's their leaders, maybe it's their management team. They don't run on a, we had this issue, what can we do? How can we prepare ourselves for the future? Sometimes the thing is, this is an issue, fix it in like 24 hours. We don't want a long-term solution. We want something that needs to be fixed right now. And then 5 years down the line, they face that situation again. But because it wasn't a healthy environment or a healthy, just workplace situation, that people leave. And so that entire transition team that helped work on those things, they've also left. And so now you're, again, dealing with crisis management. So just keeping those things in mind. What can you do on your end? One, make sure that you do improve your emotional intelligence. It's very difficult dealing with lots of different people, with dealing with your own feelings. But I think one, great to attend an emotional intelligence workshop or ask any, of your advisors, or anyone that you trust who has a little bit more experience, or any professionals in your college campus. If they have an emotional intelligence workshop, please go ahead and attend those. Read things online, go through articles. So many people have so many different personality types, and they have different ways of addressing conflict, receiving feedback. One way that works for you will not work for another person. In the workplace, I am very direct and I'm very honest, but I have learned to try to formulate that in a way that is going to be, one, acceptable professionally, but two, is still going to be caring and kind to other people. Next is going to be practice language and phrasing. For our students in our OCC Circle K board meetings, instead of saying pros and cons, we've changed that language to be pros and deltas, or things that we can change. But at the same time, when we say changes and deltas, that means that it's not just a you person changing. You need to be transparent and say, this is something that our entire team needs to change. So just using that. And later I will show you some more phrases on how you can improve your, addressing conflict. But saying different things and learning, oh gosh, yeah, that thing that I said was not the most peaceful way of saying it without starting so much drama. I'm going to learn how to rephrase my things. But yeah, and also managing your stress is huge. Do some self-care activities. I had a self-care workshop that I hosted at Fall Training Conference, and I'm more than happy to send that to all of you as well. But managing your stress is a huge thing. Also, not everything is going to be a win and lose situation. So change your mindset of that. It's just, what can we do to resolve it? What do we need? What are the resources that we need? And let's do better next time. Instead of, I need to win that argument. Gosh, I lost that argument. Next time I'll be better so that I can come up with more argument topics. That's not exactly the way that you want to go about it. But just think of it as, look, this is another thing that we need to address and resolve. Yes, it does take a lot of time, but I think if it didn't take a lot of time, then that shows that we didn't really care about it. So it is time consuming, but there is a reason for it. But that's why you need a lot of patience in this. Not everybody functions on the same way. You might be a quick learner and quick to address things. Other people might not be. So again, you have to have a lot of patience in this. And especially after you have dealt with your conflicts, that transition period or that developmental period is very, very important. So a little bit of self-reflection time. We talked about some interpersonal things dealing with other people, but I also want your input on this. So let's take a moment to do a quick evaluation. I know it's very difficult sometimes for people to evaluate themselves. I literally worked on a team where someone said, I don't want any comments from you guys. I hate being evaluated. So let's take some time to think about the things and reflect upon ourselves. Do you fail to say thank you? Do I interrupt people when they're speaking and I'm not actually actively listening to them? Do I pass judgment onto other people? Do I put them down with my words? Or even things that, one, I'm doing on purpose to put other people down, or things that I had no idea that this actually triggered someone. But again, that's information that I don't know. So experiencing that and being like, now, ding, 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 I need to learn that. Not treat everyone with respect, make any belittling comments. Maybe it's a rant for you and you don't actually mean it. You might be over it, 10 minutes later, because you had that time to vent, but the things that you say may carry on for the rest of other people's lives. 10 minutes to you could be a lifetime to somebody else. So have a lot of thoughts and a lot of intent when you're saying things. But again, if you want to vent, please make that aware to people and say, look, I might not mean what I'm about to say. I just want to vent or rant. I just need this 10 minutes of a safe space. After that, I can move on. So please don't take this seriously or any of that. Talk about that space beforehand with the person that you are trying to share this information with, so that it's transparent. Instead of saying all of these things, people talk to other people. So that gets transferred on telephone. And then it becomes a whole other situation that you didn't mean to have in the first place. Do you reject feedback? Are you silent with others who are being uncivil? Do you engage in microaggressions? Do I yell in the workplace? Do I harass others? I know this is a difficult topic to kind of reflect upon ourselves, but does anybody want to throw in the chat maybe some things that they want to improve upon? So for example, I think that I might interrupt other people. So I have learned to be an active listener. And I've shared this with my supervisor too. She said, no, I think you're a great listener. And I was like, well, I know me. And I think that these are some improvements that I could have. Maybe being a better active listener to people. The problem is my mind goes a mile a minute. So I might accidentally interrupt someone, but that's literally because if I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember it. So another one of my coworkers also apologized to me and said, hey, look, my ADHD legit diagnosis is happening. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but the thing is, if I don't say it, I'm going to forget it. So I apologize if it seems like I'm interrupting, and I'm not. But yeah, definitely get silent when others are being uncivil. Yeah, that's hard. We'll talk about some other things that we can do to address that conflict in a little bit. And also when we are on the sidelines and people are kind of being mean to other people. Great, so let's move on. What happens if you are in a conflict, right? So first, identify the issue and say, hey, what is actually the problem here? Is the problem because I feel offended personally, or is it a problem because many other people on the team also feel that way? And once you have addressed that problem, just remember that, you know a lot, but you don't know everything. Maybe you need to do some research. Maybe to you, it doesn't make sense because you have experience from CKI and you know, hey, this is not a productive way of handling things. But let me do some research in my workplace to see, when did we start doing this? Were there other ways of trying to make it more productive? What happened to those things? Also, hey, this is how I reacted to this. But you know what? I'm going to ask an advisor or one of my supervisors to see, was this the right reaction for me, or was I overreacting to this situation? Do you think that what I said did it make sense, or was I totally confusing and I was actually more frustrated with myself trying to get the words out? But that frustration went to, other people just have no idea what I'm saying, so that's their problem. Like, what happens? And also seeking advice and, being open to wanting to change, wanting to learn, and also having that accountability and saying, hey, I messed up. Address the conflict, but keep in mind, again, your personality types. Continue with those discussions. Some people want to be confronted in different ways. And sometimes they just haven't gotten that lesson yet, or they haven't experienced that yet. So they don't know how to deal with that conflict. Again, having accountability, and also make a game plan and follow through. If you say, hey, you know what? This is a problem that we faced. In the future, instead of sending that in an email to everybody and kind of making it embarrassing, I am just going to talk to that person in the first place to try to talk it out with each other. And if that doesn't work, then that's what I would go to my supervisor or somebody else for some advice and for some help. So having that game plan and maybe talking to that other person to one, put that in writing and document it, kind of like as an agreement between you two, that, look, this is the conflict that we had at this time. In the future, how do we go about resolving it between each other? Should I have confronted you in a different way? But also, would you be open to, doing these extra resources, or maybe taking this course with me to resolve that conflict, or something? But having a follow-through plan and actually following through with a follow-through plan is huge. So put that into place and document whatever happens. If you're having an issue with a teammate and you said, on this day, I tried talking to them about this topic. On this day, they brought that topic up again with malice, and I again tried talking to them. On this day, they said some things that were very hurtful to me, and this is exactly what they said. And on this day, I'm going to reach out to my supervisor because that is unacceptable behavior. So document it, because if you don't, then it didn't happen and you can't protect yourself. Some ways to kind of get out of that situation, or to respond to it, or to address it, right? So this is happening to you or to other people. Someone said something that was very, very inappropriate, and you say, you know what, I find this topic to be inappropriate. Can we just please change this topic? Or I feel that, you know what, this is maybe not the topic that is a huge priority right now. So is there any way that we can revisit, but let's focus on this topic first? After that, you can also say, hey, this does make me personally uncomfortable and it does hurt my feelings. I'm sure you don't mean to do that. So can you please, one, set up a time with me so that maybe I can talk to you about it and how we can resolve that issue? Two, can you please not say things in this way? Or, you know, kind of any other way that you want to say, insert that comic topic that you want to express to them. And then also, I do not like that kind of language that you're using. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. So can you please, in the future, rephrase that in a different way? We actually had an issue in the office because one of our supervisors is very free with their cursing. But we feel that in mental health, it's a way for people to vent out their feelings. But of course, other people might invite that. And other people might be like, I have a huge problem with cursing. That is very unprofessional, and I do not like that. So unfortunately, there was a huge investigation. We had to all go to HR and talk to them, and it was resolved in a way where an email was sent saying, hey, please remember that this is a respectful workplace. We all have different personality types, but maybe with these teammates, that's your way of feeling comfortable with each other and building that bond and that kind of relationship. But keep in mind that with other teammates, that is the antithesis of it. So just being transparent with that. And if you're not transparent with that now, maybe this is the start of when you can kind of start doing that, and keeping these phrases in your back pocket to use in the future. And also, these are great because this is, what if you see something happen to other people, uncivil discord, whatever it is, but you don't know how to stick up for somebody, how to address it. You're like, I want to mind my own business, but at the same time, I think that was very inappropriate behavior. And I can see that maybe that's going to hurt my teammate in the future. So what you can do is that if you've come into that situation, you can help. Let's say like you are the third person, you're like outside looking in. The situation doesn't have to deal with you specifically. Maybe it's between your friend and somebody who is treating your friend in a poor way, right? So you can distract them, the person who is kind of offending other people. You can say like, oh, hey, so can we talk about that assignment that, that was just assigned to us to this person? Let's go over here in the hallway to talk about it. Or you can also say that to your friend and being like, oh, hey, I just came over to double check and see if we are still cool with having lunch right now. Is it cool to have lunch? All right, let's go. See you later. And after that, you can, remove that person, whichever person, from the situation and distract them from that. You can also have a direct conversation if that is something that right now is in a good place for you to do in a healthy way, with least amount of drama possible or least amount of damage possible. Direct the conversation and you say, hey, I do not appreciate the language or how you phrase that. It's really hurting other people. Please stop it. You can also support. You can afterwards, like if you don't feel that you can say anything during that conflict or that argument, you can wait until after the argument is over. Then you go and provide support and say, hey, I did not feel comfortable being in that because I wanted to mind my own business, but at the same time, I want to offer support to you. What are you going to do for your next steps? Do you need like a witness, for example? But showing that you are still going to actively help them instead of avoiding it. We don't want avoidance, right? Even if it's supporting them after the situation happened. Finally, the serious one is to report the issue to your supervisor, to some of the other resources that I'm going to share with you, to the state, federally, and even to your advisors to say, hey, this was an issue that I had. I was not able to resolve it with this person. Can you help me out with it? And that's when we would come in and we give you ideas on how to do it. We do want you to resolve the conflict yourself. But if there's a time, for example, I went to my supervisor and I said, I have tried so many times with this person and they are continuing to kind of undermine my abilities. Is there anything that, we can do? And that person later ended up being transferred to a different department because our entire team felt that they were attributing to a hostile work environment for us. So in that case, reporting it was very helpful. I know that some people talk about maybe HR being there to only protect the company and not to protect the interests of the employees. That could very well be the case for a lot of HR. I have met with HR people who have said, this is a hostile work environment that you're experiencing. I highly suggest, as like a friend, because I had a friend who was working in HR, in our HR, I want the best for you. So if there's any way that you want to transfer to a different department, find a new job somewhere else, and you need a reference or something, I will help out and reach out to you. Or if it's serious allegation, your advisors can be there to go through the protocol, whether that's reporting it to the college or reporting it to a board member. So keep those things in mind. You do have people who can help you out, right? And here's a time when situations do get very, very serious. Disclaimer, any person of any age has the right to a workplace and environment free of harassment and discrimination. And that is a huge topic for us, especially in the past few years. So I want you as CKI members to understand that it's unacceptable in this. And it's obviously not acceptable in the workplace as well. So disclaimer that. So really say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you're going to say something that you don't mean, maybe think about it before you do. Okay. And also filing formal complaints with your supervisor, your employer. Again, I said that I am a government employee, so my resources that I have might be different from your resources that are available for you now and also in the future. I also live in California, so that's going to be your California place to report any issues. Federally, you would report to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and any time that your supervisor and your employer or these two committees get a report, they must do an investigation. And if you feel that not enough time or there was not enough time placed in your investigation and whatnot, or look, it's taking a really long time, please, you are entitled to continue to get updates or receive updates, or you reaching out to people and asking for those updates about that investigation. So that's your right to that. And also next is to file a private lawsuit. So that's either you doing it or thankfully for me, because I'm government, I am able to be accepted into a union right away. For some other people, for their bargaining units, one, it's going to be a high fee to get into some of those unions, or two, they have very extensive qualifications until you can get there. For example, I know that for some of those in film who want to get into their unions, they require a startup fee, they require an annual membership, and they require working hours to be on set with a specific employer. Or somebody, a specific payroll, right? Versus me, I literally, like when I started, I paid $13 and I was already in my union. And if I feel that I don't want to talk to HR about it because I feel that they don't have my best interest, I'm going to go to my bargaining unit report that to them, and they will sit down and have a conversation with the director, with management, whoever it is that's involved. Maybe if you feel, HR doesn't have my back and it's going to be a slow investigation, talk to your bargaining unit and see what they can do to help you with that. And that's why, maybe having the option. I know that unions, kind of controversial topic. Some people say that it helps them and some people say that it doesn't. So I really hope that if you have the opportunity to be in that union, then your union will be very, very helpful to you. Fingers crossed. But yeah, this is towards the end of my training. A little bit of a Kiwanis family trainer here for our Kiwanians and also our Circle Kers who are here. So yeah. Thank you so much to all of you for coming. And of course, you'll be receiving a follow-up email from Austin and the team. And you'll also be getting a copy of all of these and some extra resources that I have for you. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to people, your advisors, your president, your lieutenant governor, just anybody really. And also continue to be great learners, great researchers, but also finding resources to help you out if you are going to be in a pickle with that. But at this time, does anybody have any questions for me or any comments? Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Yes, Andrew.
Sorry. Hi. So I was wondering if there's like any additional advice for when, say like your president and your VP and a member are like breaking a specific rule. Like perhaps they're not, perhaps they're cussing in the middle of a meeting, which is not great, right? And you have to because you're both, if you're both their friend, but you have to punish them in like a professional manner. How do you, I guess, keep that distinction between like the personal and like the professional life, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that, in Circle K, we say because we're not, it's not a paying job, that we don't think of it as professional, but it is a professional thing. One, it's your personal relationships with them and maybe some internal struggles that you may not have control over. For example, during a board meeting or general meetings, you don't have control over that relationship between the two people. Whatever happens outside, you don't have control over that, right? So I think that maybe bringing somebody in to talk about conflict would be really helpful if that's going to be an advisor or somebody from the school. So you can address it in that way, or you can choose to direct it to them and address it to them, say, hey, can I talk to both of you? I feel that this is, uncomfortable for me. And I see that that's also affecting other people. And maybe you can get statements from people because sometimes if it's just you, they'll think, oh, it's just your one-sided view of it. But if you come in again with documentation, with some sort of proof to help for accountability, and also, approaching them in a way that is going to be productive, maybe things have worked out previously. You can talk to people and say, hey, how did you address the situation with this person in the past? How did it go? What are like some warning signs that I should know about it? Again, doing your research, but asking people for advice. But I think that having step one, maybe having somebody come in and talk about conflict and saying like, hey, this is like, personal versus professional. Then maybe they'll go, oh, yeah, I do need to keep that in mind. I do this, I do that. Maybe they just aren't aware of it. So somebody can tell them, hey, this is a problem. Like, please fix it. And they'll go, oh, yeah, cool. Okay. I had no idea that was happening. Just remember the 4 squares of that. But, there's no like one solution fits all to it. So I would suggest doing a lot more research. It's a huge topic because I spend probably weeks talking to my students to try to resolve one problem. Or sometimes that problem is a months long teamwork of how to resolve it. So, go for it. If you want to email me some extra questions about that and follow up, that's totally cool with me, and I can, try to help you out with that. or any of your, advisors or somebody that you trust can hopefully help you with that situation. But yeah, good luck with that. That's a tough one. I had to deal with a lot of that when I was president. And I've learned a lot, and I was not aware of a lot of different things. So it could be that. And let's hope that it's just that they were not aware of it. But it's a different issue if they were aware of it. People have talked to them repeatedly about it. That's a separate thing.
Yeah, thanks for the answer.
Okay, thank you. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And again, I will have these resources out for you, and hopefully I will be able to attach some more resources to the presentation before we send it out to all of you. Thanks, everybody. I hope that you had a great time, and I'm going to pass it on over to Austin for closing remarks.
All right. Thank you so much, Clay, for that wonderful presentation. I really did learn a lot, and I am so incredibly grateful to invited you. You have thanked me and my committee so much, but I just want to thank you more for taking the time to present to us. So just to quickly wrap up before we end, just to preview District Professional Development Conference. So tomorrow is LinkedIn and Networking at 9:30 p.m., not 6 p.m. And it's hosted by my Golden Gate Regional Advisor, Jolie. And Jolie also works as a community health consultant and at UC Berkeley as an ethnic studies lecturer. And essentially, what this workshop will be about is just really just learning about how you can utilize LinkedIn and why it's important to network with others. Building professional connections is so crucial. It can really lead to your next career opportunity. And that is the end. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.